64,375 fans welcomed at South Korea men's World Cup qualifiers amid soaring COVID-19 cases. A general view during the match between South Korea and Iran at Seoul World Cup Stadium on March 24, 2022. CNN, March 24 was the day to remember for South Korean football fans and players. The men's national team had gone more than 11 years without beating Iran, but that streak ended on Thursday when it won 2-0 to move top of each World Cup qualifying group. And the moment was witnessed by 64,375 fans at the Seoul World Cup Stadium, the most spectators welcomed at the sporting event in South Korea since the pandemic started. South Korean captain Son Heung-min and defender Kim Young-kwon each slotted him home and celebrated their goals in front of the fans who were all strictly wearing masks. I haven't seen a crowd of 60,000 people recently, and the preparations for the game were festive. So I felt that the atmosphere was hyped up even at the stadium gate. South Korean fan Won Jong-in told CNN Sport. Of course, the game was good, but I think it's fair to say that fans were feeling the vibe. It was inspiring to see lit Red Devil headbands filling the stands. It was a really good game. I remember the last game. I smiled and jumped watching national team's games recently. It feels as if I've been to the festival. In the post-match interview aired on TV, Son said he had missed laughing and enjoying the game with fans. So many fans came to the game at the late hour on the weekdays, helping us to play a good game, Son said, thanking the spectators for filling the stands. South Korean's Kim Young-won celebrated his goal in front of the fans. Limited spectators. Spectators held up colored card to spell the "We missed you" before kick-off, something prepared by the Korea Football Association called the KFA to mark the return of the large crowd. KFA said they chose the statement to express the emotions of both fans and players after the pandemic had forced a cap on the number of spectators able to attend the matches. When COVID-19 first struck the country in 2020, South Korea had banned the spectators entirely from sporting events. The K-League was among a handful of football leagues that played behind the closed doors after world game was largely shut down. The country had managed to keep its total COVID-19 cases relatively low until the highly transmittable Omicron became the dominant variant in January 2022. As the variant spread fast, the health authorities decided to focus on minimizing critical cases and deaths instead of dedicating its resources to curbing the number of total infections. The country's infection total since the pandemic began surpassed 10 million on Tuesday, meaning roughly 1 out of every 5 South Koreans have now been infected at some stage of the pandemic. But the country has stopped using vaccine passes, which were required to enter public facilities including sporting events, and will scrap the 7-day mandatory quarantine for fully vaccinated international travelers starting April 1st. As the measures eased, health authorities allowed up to 299 people at sporting events, but added that related ministries could grant permission for gatherings of 300 and more. On Thursday, 64,375 fans had their temperatures checked upon entry and sat in the stands with their masks on. Vaccine passes and physical distancing were not imposed, however. The KFA played pre-recorded voices of the fans during the game, as chanting is still banned to prevent further spreading of COVID-19. Supporter one told CNN that he could notice the lack of chanting as the biggest differences between games before the pandemic and now. In terms of the football games, I do have to say chanting. I hope that COVID-19 would settle soon so that supporting culture such as chanting would be back. Fans held up messages ahead of kickoff. Sold out game. Despite the South Korea seeing its deadliest day of the pandemic on Wednesday, with 470 deaths reported in a 24 hours period, Thursday's match was sold out. Seoul World Cup Stadium, the biggest football stadium in the country, has only been sold out 10 times in history, including Thursday's record, according to the KFA. Securing a ticket was extremely competitive. The ticketing website is struggling to cope and was down for 42 minutes as over 230,000 people simultaneously tried to access it. Considering the traffic figures of a period sold out 8 matches, we had prepared a server sufficient for 120,000 people to simultaneously access this time. The KFA said in a statement, apologizing for the inconvenience it caused. But those who managed to get tickets enjoyed a special night. A few minutes after the final whistle, fans turned their phones' flashlight on to celebrate ending the winless streak against Iran. Last night, I got to feel the importance of the fans once again. I really missed it. Thank you so much. Thank you for making it a happy night. So wrote on his Instagram Friday. While fans at the game enjoyed being back at the stadium with the players and crowd, some expressed concerns online. COVID-19 infection is not decreasing, but 60,000 seats at the World Cup Stadium sold out, one tweeted. The administration let the World Cup Stadium get sold out, while COVID-19 infection and deaths are soaring, another wrote. South Korea will travel to the UAE for its final Qatar World Cup qualifier on March 29th, though the squad was already secured its passage to the World Cup in Qatar, set for later this year.